Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how you doing this week?
I am doing great, Eric. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Although we've had a number of days of rain, and this is not unexpected. Because I'm broadcasting from Middletown, Connecticut, and we have a local legend here. We have in town the Coleman Brothers Carnival, and they tour all over, but they always start out their season here in Middletown. And every year, as they start setting up, we get rain. And it has rained on them every year, I think, since they started doing this decades ago. It actually happens with such regularity that they talk about it on their website.
I'm surprised it's not on one of those gambling sites as far as taking odds and that kind of thing. As I've been keeping my gratitude journal for years, so I can read what's happened on this date over the last 8 years now, which is really crazy. And the weather on the last couple of days has ranged everywhere from record highs to 75 to 80 degrees to 5 inches of snow the day after Easter, where it was a sunny day and we colored on the driveway. I mean, it's wild. It was on up here, but it's amazing. And I mean, Saturday, I was walking and it was cold outside, and I saw the big black clouds to the north a little ways, and I said, "Wow, something's probably going on in Collinsville." I found out it was hailing over there. I didn't get anything over here 2 miles away.
Yeah, we had sleet, rain, and sun all
Yeah,
on Saturday.
we had the rain, and I took the walk afterwards, and I was looking at all the stuff, and it was wild. So,
Well, you know the old Mark Twain quote: "If you don't like the weather in New England, wait 5 minutes."
yep. But it's a nice one today, and it's just nice being up here anyway, regardless of the weather.
It's
Got to make your due. Got to keep happy.
Absolutely, and that's what we're going to be talking about today: the pursuit of happiness and the pursuit of success. And people talk a lot about being happy and being successful. But over the course of the last few weeks, I've had some interesting conversations with people, and we've noticed some trends going on, and not all for the good. And one of the biggest ones we've seen is that, people want to be happy and they want to be successful, but they don't actually take the time to figure out what that means. It's just this abstract concept.
Absolutely. And I've sort of built a business around that concept. And I mean, you and I both been exposed to this throughout our careers. And for me, it came through working with business owners and doing planning and this kind and that and whatever. And just realizing that the people out there who supposedly are successful and own their own businesses and have lots of money and so on and so forth are just as miserable as the people working for them, or even more so in a lot of ways. And that's because their main focus is on the wrong thing. And you really can't blame anybody, because ever since mankind's really been walking the earth, we've always measured success by achievements and this and that and whatever. And you got to do this and you got to do that, which brings in comparing yourself to one another. So even if you're doing great, there's somebody out there doing better, and that gets on your mind too. And so, one morning I just stood up at the networking meeting, which I've told you the story before. I said, "Good morning, I'm the Happiness and Success GPS. Can't be successful unless you're happy first." And there are a lot of miserable people out there because their main focus is on the wrong thing. And happiness is really, really pretty simple. It's just writing down what you're good at, what makes you happy, and so on and so forth, and working on those positive things in your life, and just being aware that they're always there, knowing that you're always going to have your ups and downs every day and every single present moment. And that's the other key factor, is that instead of thinking about the past and all those things and worrying about the future, if you just enjoy the present moment for what it is, that's the key to life, because it's your choice as to whether you want to be positive in that moment or negative. And yes, you're going to have your up and downs, but if you have that awareness going for you, and you figure out how to flip the switch. And there's different tools to do that. Could be visualizations, could be mantras, could be a lot of different things. That's the key.
You said two things in that really struck a chord. The first is, what makes you happy? So many people don't really think about that. They just think happiness happens. And it's really about pursuing those things that make you happy. And the other thing you said was you have to work towards it. There has been a huge shift over the past several years. I'd say probably 10 years or so, maybe even a little longer, where people just think they deserve to be happy and it should just appear out of nowhere. And it's like they expect it to be an award for participation. They don't have to put any effort in. They just should be happy. And it doesn't work that way. It's something you really do have to work at.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of people out there know that there probably have been times where they have worked at something and all of a sudden something good came from it. And just think to yourselves out there in the radio land and audible land or whatever, how do you feel when that happens? You feel a really, really great sense coming from inside, not from your head, but coming from inside where we're all connected. And the bottom line is since mankind has been walking the earth, we have always been measuring things. And when you measure things, you judge your results. And when you're judging your results, you're comparing yourself to others out there. And when you compare yourself to others out there, there's one way or another where you're not going to measure up to this person and that person and so on and so forth. But guess what? Everybody's looking at you the same way that they're not measuring up to you. And that's the mess that we're kind of like stuck in. And what the influences of society standards and so forth is it's all based upon achievement and possessions and those things and whatever. And what they're all well and good, but you have to put things into perspective that those things are going to result from being happy and being your best self for the world and leveraging your talents and helping other people do the same thing. And that's the way the whole thing works. And once that happens, then we're all happy doing what we're doing. And the success, including finances and so on and so forth, are logically going to flow just through the law of attraction. That's just the way things work. And so it's everybody's got to reverse, is that you got to have these things and then you're going to be happy. But you know as well as I do, once you get one thing, you're going to want something that somebody else has. And it doesn't matter how rich you are or how supposedly lacking you are, but everybody has a lot going for them. They just got to figure out what it is and leverage that.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with wanting things. It's about ambition. People are built with a drive to do things. They want to make an impact. They want to leave a legacy. However you want to phrase it, it's about how you affect people. And I think one of the things that most people don't seem to think about is that people are like icebergs. You see that 10% of the iceberg that's above the water, but you never see the 90% that's below the water. And when people compare themselves to other folks, they're comparing themselves to that 10% that they can see above water. And I mean, that's especially bad on social media. People will go on social media, and I've actually seen folks on social media that I know very well, and I've looked at what they're posting and how wonderful their lives look on social media, and because I know them, I'm going, wow, that's not really representative of what they're going through. But unless you actually know the person, you don't realize that. So comparing yourself to what you see others do is never a good thing because you're not seeing the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line is, when I do my presentations, I talk about the journey from carefree child to the land of Saneville, which is just being overwhelmed by the outside world that you have no control over, living life day to day as a result of that. But if you think about, I always talk a lot about just going back to your childhood. In fact, in my presentation, when I have that, I actually have two slides on the page, Journey from Carefree Child to the Land of Saneville. I have a black and white picture of myself at around age 1.5. And next to that one is a beautiful color pictures of my beautiful granddaughter, who's a lot cuter than I am. And both of us have almost like the same pose and we're waving and stuff like that. And you think about it, when people are born, basically all they can do is observe. They can't process thoughts. They just observe things. And then they start learning things from their parents or whatever. Most of the things are very positive, and they're always smiling and they're always playing and so on and so forth. And life hasn't hit them yet. But as soon as they get outside there and start growing up and start being able to say words and then go to school and so on and so forth, then the outside world and all of its influences, which again are predominantly influenced by society standards and expectations and the propaganda of whoever's trying to get their message across and so on and so forth. And that's when we always become head cases. And that's happened since mankind started walking the earth. And this is a source of conflict within yourself. It's a source of conflict, unfortunately, which is going on in the world and between religions and so on and so forth. Because when you try to force your propaganda, your perspective on somebody else, and there's got to be a winner and a loser, there's no winners. There's always losers, and this is the source of war. It's the source of everything bad that's going on in the world. I know I'm kind of simplifying these things, but if you really think about it, that's just the way things are. Whereas if we talk about that present moment, if you could take that pregnant pause between your reaction, which is the way you feel about things and so on and so forth, which those things are going to be there all the time, negative ones, and how you respond, which in most cases, what would happen in the world if for one day nobody had a negative response to everything and they just responded with silence when they heard something they disagree with? Think about that. What would happen if people did that for a week or a month? I know it's easier said than done, but at least all of you people out there are now aware that you can start practicing that yourself. And that's one of the keys to maintaining your sanity. Just ask yourself, is it important for me to respond this way? Is it important for me to disagree with this person, even though I know I'm right and that person's wrong? It's more important to respect people where they're at, because everybody is different. And again, everybody's opinions are coming from the influences of society, which there's no book where this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I've very often confronted with opinions I don't agree with or things that I know aren't true. And it's just not worth the time to argue over. So I very often will go, that's really interesting. Because you're sort of validating what they're saying without agreeing to it. And the fact of the matter is, and this is something that seems to have been lost over the last decade or so, is that grown-ups can get along even if they don't agree on everything.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is you gotta meet people where they are and appreciate them for what they are. And everybody's got a lot of wonderful things going on for them, and that's the most important thing going, is to just understand that, hey, we are one humanity. Think of going through life for one whole day too with your eyes closed and not seeing the differences in people next to you. Again, this is just really thinking things off at the top of my head, but it's really hits home when you think about that. What would happen if you just close your eyes for a day and you close your ears for a day, you just let things go? All of a sudden you realize that we have a whole lot more in common than we have differences when it goes back to the source of us all. That's what it's to be. And as long as you're aware that we can move back there, and we can, one present moment at a time, one interaction with people at a time, and it's going on all over the place, but you're never going to see that covered on the news or in social media or anything else, except that's the exception and not the rule. But try and do some positive posts on social media for a day.
Absolutely.
Up there, post a comment for somebody and put down a compliment for somebody else out of the blue and see what happens to you while you're doing that.
It's funny because I actually did something like that not too long ago. I sent somebody a text message that was just, I feel lucky that you're in my life. Thank you for being you. The astonishment that the comment was met with was really interesting because it's like, because nobody says that. Nobody relates to people anymore and says, you know what? This is someone who's really important to me. I'm lucky they're in my life. Let me tell them that. And you can relate to people on that. And also, when you're not getting along with folks, I heard a great line on a sitcom last night. It says, the character said, for everything to work, we need to get used to sharing things we love with people we don't agree with. And then the character went on to say, I do that every April 15th. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, we send out those positive notices to people every April 1st. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy. But I mean, basically, if you can develop a positive routine every day, a positive morning routine and a positive evening routine, both based upon gratitude, and just look around and see what you got going well for yourself. Keep a gratitude journal, write things down. I like to post pictures. I have calendars for the last 4 years, which I make myself that have family pictures on it, and they're staring me in the face every minute of the day. There's things you can do to make you realize all the great things that you got going on in your life. And once you start thinking gratitude, negativity is never going to go away, but gratitude overpowers negativity every single time, because that is the constant. And negativity is going to go away in the form of it's history, it's done, can't do anything about it, or the future hasn't happened yet. But gratitude, it's an ongoing thing where you can always see something that you're grateful for in this moment and think about that. Again, easier said than done. And you're going to have your up days and your down days. But if you can start your morning routine with some positive gratitude things that you do, could be reading, could be writing a little gratitude journal, could be writing somebody a note like you're talking about. It does not include going to social media and listening to the news and exposing yourself to these outside influences that are society standards. And then before you go to bed at night, the same thing. What are you grateful for today? Think about something positive to look forward to tomorrow and go to sleep thinking about that. And you'll find that you are going to find yourself trending towards being happy a lot more often than you were before. And it definitely works. I mean, this is something that I've worked on for many years. I've discovered it through personal development work, which is what you folks out there should be doing too. Reading books and magazines and listening to audible programs and so on and so forth that have positive things in it. That's what you become, what you expose yourself to predominantly. And if you can do that, then the negative stuff priority wise all of a sudden won't be as high and affect you as much, because you will begin to realize what this whole world is really, really all about, and what each of us individually, most importantly, are all about, where we came from, how we are connected. And that's it. Again, close your eyes for a day, stop listening to everybody for a day, and just get back to our core.
And the one thing in all of that, what you just said, that's really important, and I think we should talk about a little bit, is you said it's easier said than done. And it is. But for some reason, people seem to think this is just something that should happen. I've talked to a number of recruiters, I've spoken to a number of people who are hiring for jobs, and they've all said the same thing. People come in, they get the job, and then they decide, well, you know what? This isn't really what I wanted. I'm not fulfilled. And we're talking about after only a few weeks. We're not talking about, putting in a couple of years at a job. And then they quit. And I had a conversation with some podcasters, and we were talking about the fact that the same thing happens in relationships. It's, well, this person isn't doing everything that, I need to make me happy. I'm just going to call it quits. Well, are you doing what's necessary to make them happy? Are you putting in the work at your job to make yourself successful? Are you putting the work into relationships to make yourself happy, to make your partner happy? This is something that needs work. And, people have known this for generations, but for some reason, over the last several years, it seems to be falling by the wayside. Everybody expects to get the award for participation just for showing up. And life doesn't work that way. You need to put in the effort. And it's not so much about making yourself happy, because if you work to make somebody else happy, you'll be amazed at how much that affects you. You know, we talk a lot about the law of attraction, but I like to refer to it also as the law of reflection. Because if you're making somebody else happy, you're going to be happier. If you're working to make your job a success, your company a success, you're going to be more successful. What you put out comes back. It's a reflection, but you have to put in the effort.
Yeah, you have to work on the person in the mirror. And again, I mean, those of you who know me hear my formula all the time, but living with a four-piece purpose, passion, positivity, and a personal plan is the formula for happiness and success. And that personal plan is so, so important. And if it's influenced by positivity, that's great. And basically, very easily, the way to do this is to just sit down with a piece of paper and write down all your likes, different things that you're good at, and so on and so forth. And by the way, do this with your spouse, or do this with your kids, or do this with other people, and so on and so forth. And when you're looking for a profession and so on and so forth, what you're doing has got to be a fulfillment of that. What you're going to come up with by looking at all these things and what virtues and beliefs and so on and so forth you have, is you're going to come up with what you think your purpose in life is. And just as you said, in some way it is to make the world a better place and make other people happy. Because the bottom line is that's what makes us happy too. And if you can work on that, that is really, really the most important thing. And you have to do this for every facet of your life as far as the strategic plan goes. And start with different things as far as how you're going to serve people. Look at things that you like to do, like your free time, your hobbies, interests, and so on and so forth. Obviously, professional things you're interested in, that kind of thing. But put it down on paper and come up with a strategic plan on how you are going to achieve it. Obviously, what you're doing professionally is going to help you out for doing that. But what you're doing professionally should be a function of what you really want to do too. So that's a really, really good starting point. And don't go it alone. Work with the people that you know and love, or get into groups with other people and mastermind around this. And it's just so important to do. And once you start doing that, that'll start becoming a habit, just like exposing yourself to social media and this and that, whatever. And if you can put in that personal time every day to work on yourself, you will see yourself change.
Right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about expectations, because this is where a lot of people get thrown asunder and go down the wrong alley. Is they've got expectations that are simply unrealistic. And it can start with, well, if I get XYZ, then I'll be happy. Um, and I've seen this, if this happens, then I'll be happy. If this happens, then I'll be happy. And they expect everything to come out of that one accomplishment, that one thing. And it affects every part of lives. Even I'm going to get slightly political, but not really. I've heard a lot of people go, well, if we can get these people elected, then everything will be better. It's like, and I've heard people say this when they actually have no idea about what the position is. They'll go, well, if we get this person into the presidency, this will be, and what they're talking about has nothing to do with who's president. Having these unrealistic expectations it's setting you down the wrong road. You need to be realistic about what life is. And it's not all jelly beans and rainbows. It's hard work. It's getting things done that you want to get done, but also things that have to be done that maybe you don't enjoy. For generations, folks went to work not because they loved the job they were doing, but because they loved their family and they wanted to be able to provide for it. So expecting your job to provide you all the fulfillment you need, expecting your spouse to do everything that's going to make you happy. These are just unrealistic expectations. And the fact of the matter is, these expectations come from you. You're generating these expectations and setting yourself up for a fall when they're impossible to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you're talking about, okay, if this person gets elected or this and that, whatever, we will all be better. And that's the reverse formula. Every single we starts with I.
Yep.
And all you control is that person in the mirror, plain and simple. And so that's the most important thing. I mean, every single present moment, every interaction you have with a person, you have the ability to influence them just by being you. It's all about being. It's not about talking. Basically, Schweitzer said, an influence example is not the main thing in influencing people. It is the only thing. People want to see you doing things and so on and so forth. And once you're doing things, then you all of a sudden become a positive influence in their life. And people will start walking up to you and asking, okay, why are you happy? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Then they're going to want information from you instead of you going into somebody, and grandma's, you got to take off that shirt saying you're entitled to my opinion. But when you're ready for it and you're being influenced positively by somebody, you're going to say, I want more of that. I want more of what they are. And that's when people will start gravitating to you. And it's all in the way that you carry yourself. And that is your choice, minute by minute.
And bringing this full circle, having these unrealistic expectations goes back to the fact that where we started, that you haven't defined what happiness and what success means to you. And expecting happiness to come from some external point, expecting success to come from some external point, shows that you haven't really thought about it. Because to be really happy, to be really successful, it's got to come from inside you. And you need to identify that and figure that out for yourself before it will ever happen. I'm sure most of our listeners are probably familiar with the movie City Slickers. And there's a line in the movie where Jack Palance gives Billy Crystal the secret to life. And he says, it's one thing. And Billy Crystal says, well, what's that one thing? And Jack Palance says, well, that's what you have to figure out. And that's what it really is. It's, happiness has a different definition for everybody. Success has a different definition for everybody. If you don't figure out what it is, you'll never achieve it.
Absolutely.
So we are just about at the end of our time. So Chip, what do you think is a big takeaway for our listeners this week?
Use the formula before. Jack Canfield's success principle number 1. Take 100% control of your life. The formula for life is the present moment. And every single present moment has an event which you respond to, which determines the outcome. The only thing that we own is our response. And if we can respond positively to life's events, which includes being silent when you have to be silent, then what you are doing is you are providing happy moments for other people by doing that. And by providing happy moments to other people, you're going to be happy too, because that's going to be coming back to you, because you're going to feel happy doing it and seeing their happy response too. So the present moment, if you keep yourself under control, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them proportionally, and so on and so forth, and just pause before you respond to somebody. Again, reactions, you will always have feelings that are negative, but your response is your action, and that's the most important thing. So plan on going a day or a week or whatever to consciously work on positive responses and watch the magic happen.
Excellent point. Yeah, I think for me, the big takeaway is that if you're looking externally for happiness and if you're looking externally for success, you're looking in the wrong place. You have to look within yourself. Everything we accomplish, everything that makes us happy, starts with our actions and what we are doing. So define what happiness is for yourself, define what success is for yourself, and then go out and make it happen. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.